United States Senate race here in the state of Arizona watched across the country. It is who is going to replace Senator Sinema as she leaves the office. And it could be the decider in the balance of power in many people's minds. So it's not only watched because of it's Arizona, but also because of the balance of power in Washington, D.C. Joining us right now is Republican candidate Kari Lake. Kari, thanks for calling in.
I'm glad to be here, Mike. Sorry I'm calling a little late. I've been up in Payson and meeting with some veterans, and sometimes these events go a little bit longer than expected, but it was good to be up here with them.
Well, I appreciate you making time for us. Now, let's dive into some of the questions. Let's start with fundraising. It was released from Ruben Gallego's campaign, the Democrat candidate. He raised over $10.4 million in the second quarter. How do you keep up with that kind of fundraising? Is that something that's an issue for your campaign?
No, I mean, we're raising good money, but the Democrats always raise more. I mean, God only knows where their money's coming from, But we're doing a good job, and this is one of the reasons we got to have a strong contender in this race, and I'm asking people to vote for me. We had over $5 million raised this quarter. That takes a lot of fundraising work, and it's important. They're going to pump, the outside groups are going to pump $250 million into this race, so we got to have a candidate who can compete. We're never going to outraise the Democrats because, like I said, it's always highly suspicious where their money comes from. But we're doing really well, and I'm proud of our fundraising work.
Let's talk about the economy. Well, the economy is on the front of everyone's minds, inflation. But the government spending is something we talk a lot about on this show, that we are seeing such deficits being created. We're spending more money on our debt. Going to the United States Senate, how do you rein in the spending and still provide what the American people expect of their government?
Well, I mean, inflation's not going to go away until we stop printing money that we don't have. So addressing the deficit is a huge step. It's step number one. We got to hold the line on the budget, stop spending money we don't have, implement a pro-growth type policies. We can't just cut our way out. We have to also grow our way out of this. And we have to stop funding foreign wars. I mean, we're pouring billions, hundreds of billions into foreign wars when we're suffering right now here in our country. We need to re-implement welfare work requirements that were championed and passed by Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich, and then target Medicare fraud and waste, get rid of the drug middlemen that make our prescription drugs so expensive, and break up the healthcare cartels. But I just was listening, though, before you came to me, Mike, the story that one of your reporters was reading about housing prices, and we're pricing people out of the ability to even rent. This used to be an affordable state. We're literally pricing a younger generation out of the American dream right now. And the root of that problem is that basically for 2 decades we haven't built enough housing. So I propose things like a construction trade school assistance program that'll bring more people into the trades to help us build these homes. If we start now, we could have thousands, even tens of thousands of newly trained, ready to go construction and trade workers on the job by the end of my campaign. If we started doing that now. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. We're going to need to get some people who have a vision in Washington, D.C. to make that happen. But we got to start solving our problems here and stop trying to start wars overseas.
Well, that leads me to the next question that has to do with the border. And I know that that's an issue that you've been focused on. Would you be a proponent, if the border is secure and we're talking about immigration reform, would you be a proponent of a guest worker program that a lot of those homes that would be built could be built by people while we're training the Americans to do the job? Would you be in favor of a guest worker program to help in some of those industries here in Arizona build those homes?
Well, I definitely think we have to look at our immigration program the way it is. It's almost unpalatable for the American people to start saying, let's reform immigration when we have a wide open border and we've got 12 million people who've poured in. So we need to initially secure the border. That can be done really quickly. Finish the wall, remain in Mexico, no more catch and release. 97% of these people pouring in are fraudulent asylum cases, and Ruben Gallego wants to give all these people who poured in not only asylum, amnesty, and voting rights, and that's wrong. The people aren't for that. And then once we get that controlled, the flow of people pouring in, invading our country, then we need to really examine our immigration policy because it isn't working. We need to look at what our economy needs, what our workforce needs, and that's what we can do when we finally secure the border. But I do think our immigration system needs to be reformed so that it's actually helping build up America, and we're actually bringing people in, people that can actually contribute to our economy and make our country a better place.
Republican candidate for the United States Senate, Kari Lake, is joining us for a few moments. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the debate situation with Mark Lamb, the other Republican candidate. You and I sat down in a conversation because Katie Hobbs refused to debate you, and you were given an opportunity for 30 minutes to make your case to the voters in Arizona. Well, Mark Lamb was able to do that because you did not come to the debate with him. Can you tell us why you decided not to debate him?
For starters, Mike, this story's been blown out of proportion. I actually did do a debate with Mark. I did a debate with him, an AMAC debate. AMAC is a group that looks out for the concerns of retirees and older and senior Americans. And so I did do a debate. But let me tell you, the polls show me up 30 points. I don't think I need to continue to debate somebody in the Republican primary. I'm looking toward beating Ruben Gallego and stopping Joe Biden's destruction of our country. I think one debate is fine. People know me. They know I'm not afraid of debating. I'm not afraid to talk to people, but we've got 4 months to save our country. And a big part of campaigning is time management. And I'm focusing on bringing down the destructive policies of the Democrats. And so my time is better spent talking to voters, making sure they understand where I stand on the issue, and taking out Ruben Gallego and the destructive policies of Joe Biden. And so I was spending the day with CEOs and big leaders of Southern Arizona's, some of their biggest companies in Southern Arizona. I spent the day earlier in the day with ranchers and farmers in Southern Arizona. I've got to manage my time, and I'm managing my time by talking to the voters and making sure they know where I stand.
Okay,
I think one debate is fine.
I just wanted to put the question out there, so I appreciate the response.
And I certainly, Mike, don't want to go do a debate with a bunch of liberals over at PBS when they broke the rules in the governor's race. Remember, they broke the rules in that race. Katie Hobbs would not debate, and so rather than saying, well, then you're out of luck, Katie, they ended up giving her own 30 minutes, which was wrong. She broke the rules, so I don't want to really deal with those kind of people. I don't want to go have a bunch of liberals run our debate. I'd rather have an honest debate, which we did with AMAC.
So let me ask you about the last question. Then you mentioned farmers and ranchers. One of the big issues that's been raised here in Arizona is the future of water and what we do in a growing state on water. Now, obviously, that was something Senator John Kyle played a big role in the previous generation of securing water. What can you do? What needs to be done at the Senate level to make sure for the next 100 years, Arizonans know they have the water they need?
Well, and when we appreciate all that, Senator Kyle did. He really was a leader in that area. But we can't, and I said it before, we can't conserve our way out of our water problems. We're a growing economy. We're a growing state. And we absolutely need to make sure that we're looking at new ways to bring new water sources in. Because, it always ends with the ag community, with the farmers, with the ranchers. They draw the short end of the stick here. And if we continue to do that, we're going to end up having a food crisis before we have a water crisis. So I want to think really big, and I want to start looking at new ways to bring fresh water into Arizona. And we can do that through desalination. We can desal underground brackish water. We have a ton of underground water that's brackish. Desal would work on that. But frankly, from the federal level, we could work on bringing desal plants up and down the West Coast. You think about the West growing, we have to start looking at bringing new fresh water into the West because we're all fighting over drops of water coming out of the Colorado River. So I want to think really big. These problems are solvable, but we have to start thinking a lot bigger and looking at ways to bring more freshwater sources into the state.
Kari, I want to thank you for making time for us today. I know you've got a tight schedule, but thanks for keeping the commitment and joining us today.
Great. Well, and I appreciate it, Mike. And right now, the ballots are in your mailboxes. I encourage people to vote. I'd ask for your vote in the primary. If you vote on Election Day, it's July 30th. I'm endorsed by Senator Mike Lee. I'm endorsed by Rand Paul. I'm endorsed by John Thune, Tuberville, and, of course, President Trump. But I really want the endorsement of the people of Arizona. So I appreciate your vote, and I will go to Washington, D.C. and make the state proud.
Thanks again, Kari. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching The Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.